Depression is referred to in the psychological world. A little bit tongue-in-cheek, but it's referred to in the psychological world as the piece of poop, let's say. That's not what they say, but we'll sanitize the language. Piece of poop at the center of the universe. Now, there's two pieces to that. A piece of poop and the center of the universe. Meaning, I feel horrible about myself, and it's all about me. This is why connection is so critical to treating depression. This is why service and giving is such a beautiful antidote to depression. Because depression is that separate, surrounded by hundreds of people. It's not necessarily physical aloneness, but we feel alone. Alone at this center of the universe, where I'm separate from myself. I'm separate from those around me. I'm separate from the divine creation. I'm separate from God. And this is where reconnection is so important. On a core spiritual level, reconnecting with the divine. But also, reconnecting with those around you, deeply. And if we don't have that, if we're surrounded by people but not able to connect, can you connect with an animal? Can you connect with a tree? Can you be of service in some way? I know in these days of COVID, it's a double whammy. We're not even able to be with people. Being of service to people is a very, very powerful antidote, or service to animals, or service to nature. Planting trees, working in an animal shelter, being with children in an orphanage, in a poor school, on the cancer ward of a hospital. Being helpful. Reading to blind people or elderly. It's something that enables us to connect, and it's also something that enables us to recognize the value of us here on earth. Another aspect of depression has to do a lot with how separate we feel from people, or the world and ourselves, and how separate we feel from anything that matters. A purpose in life, a meaning in life, any reason to get out of bed. And again, this is where being of service plays such an important role. There is someone who benefits by my getting out of bed today. There is someone whose life I am improving by getting out of bed today. Now, on a spiritual level, depression is that dis-ease. Sometimes it's severe enough that it's actually a diagnosable disease. Sometimes it's more of just a momentary, few hours, few days kind of blip. Because not all moments of sadness are depression. Depression is something that tends to linger, tends to be more pervasive. but this sense of dis-ease where nothing matters. Nothing you do matters. You're not connected to anything that matters. Doesn't matter to anybody if you get out of bed today. So spiritually, we have to, whether we are preventing depression or treating depression, align ourselves in connection to others. And as I said, connection to God ideally, but it's very difficult to begin there if you don't already have a spiritual practice and you're in the midst of suffering from depression. It's easier to connect with a human who needs your help, a stray dog who needs your help, someone who needs your help. But ideally where we're going, ultimately, is to a connection with God, a connection to the perfection of the universe. This experience of divine consciousness, of which we are part. This experience of divine light, divine perfection, divine oneness, nothing but God. But along the way, use whatever you need to connect. If it's another human being, if it's an animal, if it's a tree, if it's a sunset. But in that being, or in that experience of nature, try to see not just a love of that being, but try to really feel how connected you are. Feel them in you and you in them on an energetic level. Experience that connection and find something meaningful you can be engaged in. Something that brings benefit to the world. Something that helps others. Align yourself with something that matters. And get help. Because I know the question asked about spiritual depression, but there are times where we need some assistance other than just our spiritual practice. There are times when our meditative practice may not be strong enough. When our spiritual grounding may not be strong enough, our spiritual anchoring may not be strong enough. Where we need some extra assistance from the world of psychology, the world of therapy, the world of medicine. Reach out, get help. There is help. Because depression tends to also feel very pervasive, like shame. That it's going to last forever. The sun will not rise again. And that it's over every area of my life. There is nothing in which I can find joy. Nothing that matters. And it never will matter, and there never will be joy. And sometimes we need a hand to pull us, just to pull us out of there. Get help. Do not feel that it's a sign of weakness. Do not feel that there's something wrong with you. Do not feel ashamed. Get help. There are times in all of our lives that we need someone to help us get up. And sometimes that person is a therapist, is a doctor, is a psychologist or a psychiatrist. Do not feel badly to get that help. But along with that, get your spiritual practice so strong, your spiritual grounding so strong, that in the future you're able to witness it. You're able to be present with waves of emotions and emotional states that ebb and flow in your life, and not to get carried out to sea by the waves of them. But for now, if you're suffering, and a lot of people are suffering these days, aside from the physical aspects, a lot of people are suffering. Emotionally, psychologically. Get out.